Let's get started with the layered figured project in Canvas. The objective here is that you're going to understand the layers panel and how they work, and a couple of other helpful hints in Photoshop so you can be successful. If you are on a desktop computer or your own personal laptop, you will, in number one, you'll click Layer Figured 2021 PSD to download it. Once you download it and you open Photoshop, you will go ahead to File up here in the menu bar, Open, and then go find in your downloads where you saved Layered Figure 2021 and click Open. This is a Photoshop document, a .psd file, and that stands for Photoshop document. And what that does is it actually preserves layers. So you can see here I've got this poor clothingless layered, figure that we need to put him in an environment and put some clothes on him. So that's what we're going to do and learn about layers at the same time. So you can see I have my layers panel open, but you might not see this right away. If by any chance this layers panel ever gets closed accidentally, you can find it by going back up to the menu bar at the top, click on Window, and you can open just about any panel from here. And there's layers, click it, and then it opened back up. If yours is a little short, you can hover over the bottom of it till an up-down arrow shows up, and you can, what I call, open and close the window shade or pull down the window shade so you can see all of the layers. I also made my layers a little bit larger for you to see, and you can do that by clicking on what I call the hamburger menu, and we get lots of options here, but way down at the bottom, we have panel options. And here you can change your thumbnail size to small, medium, or large, and I'm going to keep mine large. You can do the same if you want. It just makes it a lot easier to see these. Another thing that I want to make sure that you have access to is your toolbar, and mine's over here on the left. Yours is probably on the left. If you're in a Chromebook, you probably can't see all of them down at the bottom. So go ahead and click on these two double arrows and it will make your toolbar become double-sided. Make sure it's like that. I think it's just a lot easier to see everything there. Okay, so let's get back into the assignment. So these are all layers that make up my document. The only one we're seeing right now is the figure. And that's because I have the eyeball turned on or the visibility turned on. If I click it, the eyeball disappears and that layer is hidden. So if I click on the next one above it, the layer above it, the surfboard layer, click the layer to highlight it, see how it turns light gray. And then I click the little box to bring the visibility. Same thing with the vest. Click the layer, click the visibility, and so on and so on. But it doesn't make any sense right now because of the way the layers are stacked. You'll hear me refer to that term a lot. Think of layers in a document as a layer of books or even a layer of windows. You can see through like clear glass in a window. You can see the layer below it. Or if you think of it as a stack of books, they're all right on top of each other. So if I had a stack of books, this one would be on the bottom, this one would be the next book above it, and so on and so on. And that is how the layers work. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the visibility back off on the vest layer and the surfboard layer. The goal of this project is that you are going to, and I'm just using the scroll bar over here on the right, the goal is that you are going to put some clothes on this figure, and you're also going to put him in the atmosphere of the beach. All right, so let's get started. My layer figure is at the bottom of the layer stack. And the first thing I think I'm going to do is try to find the shorts. I don't like this one. It's kind of silly. I did give you some extra layers in here that we don't need. So here's the shorts layer. Click it one time, turn the visibility on, and look, there they are. I can grab my move tool and I can move those shorts around however I want them to be. And you know what? Right now, my whole document is very far away. So I'm going to go over to the Tools panel and click on the Zoom tool one time. To activate it and bring it back over here, you can see it looks like a magnifying glass with a plus in it. Click it about 1 time and it'll zoom in and I can work a little bit better. I'm going to get back out of the zoom tool and choose the move tool. And again, figure out where I want his shorts to be. I think that's probably good right about there. The next one I'm going to do is the shirt. I think he needs a shirt. So I'm going to click on that layer, turn the visibility on, and look, there's the shirt layer. So that's kind of cool, but it doesn't make sense. The shirt should be over top of the shorts. How do I do that? Well, that's where the layer stack comes into play. So obviously, I only have 3 layers with visibility right now. The figure, the shorts, and the shirt. So right now, those 3 are in a stacking order. I think I need the shirt layer to be above the shorts layer. How do I do that? Well, click it once to activate it and make it gray. Click and hold down on your mouse, keeping your finger on your mouse, and you just move up. And every time I see a blue line come up, that tells me if I let go of my index finger on my mouse, it will let go in between that layer. That's perfect. And it did just that. It brought it above the shorts or at the top of the layer stack. Again, if I turned other items on, they're in the background because they're below those items. Turn that visibility back off. Starting to make sense. Starting to make a lot of sense. Okay, so there's a lot of other things on here that you can play around with however you want to dress your figure, but I'm going to show you 2 more things. Let's click on the hats. There's the visibility of the hats, but there's a problem. There's 3 of them and they look a little big. How can I just pick one of these, get rid of the other 2, and then adjust it to fit on the layer figure head? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to hide the visibility on the shirt. I'm going to hide the visibility on the shorts. And I am going to, that's plenty. I can see what I'm doing. All right, again, your layer has got to be in light gray if you want to move something around on that layer. So here are my hats. How do I get rid of 2 of them? Well, I'm going to use a selection tool called the lasso tool. If you don't see your lasso tool, it could be nested in there. See that tiny triangle? That tells me there's more tools nested in there. So if I right click on that tool, I can see that these 2 are nested in there. So if you don't see a tool in your toolbar, it might just be nested. All right, here's my lasso tool. And it works kind of like a lasso. I am going to draw around one of these hats to get rid of it. I'm on my hats layer because it's in gray. I think I'm going to get rid of this one right here. I'm just clicking and dragging with my mouse, and I'm just being really rough. I don't have to be perfect at all. And when I let go, they turn into what I call marching ants. That means that this is a selection. And if I go to my move tool, I can pick that selection up and move it. It's still marching ants, but it just went around it closer. But I don't want that hat, so I'm actually going to hit the word delete, not backspace, but delete on my keyboard, and it will go away. I think you can also, nope, can't do that. Delete. There he goes. He's gone. I still have 2 hats left. Got to get rid of this one. I don't want to use this one. Back to my lasso tool. Be a little rough. I got to be careful not to go into that middle hat because I want to use that one. Roughly around, let go. It closes up into a marching ants selection. Back to my move tool, hit delete on the keyboard, not backspace, and it disappears. But how do I get rid of those marching ants? Well, you can, hang on. You should be able to, thought I could, grab this tool right here, the marquee rectangle tool, and just click anywhere away from that and they'll go away. Sometimes you can right click on that selection and see the word deselect. So I'm sorry that didn't show up for me. Back to my move tool. Let's see if I can put it on his head. It's a little big for the skinny figure's head, so I think I'm going to make it smaller. How do I do that? Well, I know I'm on the hat layer because it's in gray. Anytime you want Photoshop to do something, make sure you have something either highlighted, selected, or you have the layer selected. And I'm going to go all the way up to Edit in my menu bar, click on the drop down, and choose, I'm going to choose Free Transform. When I do that, I get a bounding box around whatever on that layer. If I grab or just even I just hover, I'm like not even pressing down on my mouse, and I just start to click and drag in that corner, it'll make it bigger. If I pull that out, it'll make it larger. We don't want it all pixelated. We definitely want to make it a little smaller. That looks good, but it's too far over, so I can still, with that bounding box, put it on his head, and I think I'm going to tilt it to make it look like he's just like really having fun. See that arrow that happens on the corner? It's like a curved arrow. When that pops up, you can click, hold down with your index finger on your mouse, and just rotate it. Like that, move it back over a little bit, maybe make it a little bit smaller, adjust it to however you want it. Now I'm done. I'm happy with that, but I've got to tell Photoshop I'm done with that. And two ways you can do that. You can go all the way up here and hit the check mark to let Photoshop know that you're done, or you can just hit enter on your keyboard. I'm going to hit the check mark, and that gets rid of that bounding box. Okay, so go back to my shirt, pull that back up, pull the visibility back up on the shorts. He's starting to look like he is doing something. There's some other things on here I know I really don't need, but you know, it's up to you. Shadow, that's kind of cool. I definitely want to put the background on there. I definitely want to bring the background up. But there's a problem. I lost the figure. That's because in the layer stack, the background is above the figure. So the background of the ocean obviously needs to come down below the figure in the layers panel. Click it. Click and hold down your mouse, keep your index finger on your mouse, drag it down until we see those blue lines or we get below it, and it did just that. It brought it to the background. So the layers are starting to make sense. Background, then the figure, then the shorts. It's starting to make sense. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to let you do this on your own. Surfboard. Click on the layer, click on the visibility. Again, there's a problem. We've got a background now around that surfboard, and we want to get rid of that. So I am going to turn the visibility off on the shorts and the shirt so I can focus. Oh, and the hat. I mean, I could leave the hat there. It's not anything I do in the surfboard layer is not going to mess up the hat because the hat's on its own layer. So I'm in this layer. How do I select this? It's like it's a garage door or some sort of door. How do I select that and delete it? Everybody wants to know how to do that. Well, instead of using the lasso tool, I think I'm going to try this selection tool called the quick selection tool. And basically all I'm going to do is I am going to click and drag over the surfboard. See that little circle with a plus? I'm going to click and drag over that surfboard and see if Photoshop will just select that surfboard. Now, my little circle in the middle with a plus is kind of small. And if I click my right bracket key on my keyboard a couple of times, that circle gets bigger. If I click the left bracket key on my keyboard, it gets smaller. Let's keep it kind of small. So I'm just going to click on my mouse, hold down, and just start dragging. And Photoshop recognizes all the pixels, because that's what these are made up of, that I want to select. And look at that. It put the marching ants or selection around the surfboard. But I'm not quite done. I don't want to delete the surfboard. That would be a mistake. So I'm going to hit Control Z to go backwards a step, to bring it back. Don't forget Control Z. Anytime you make a mistake, you should be able to hit Control Z a couple of times. many times, many times. Okay, I need to select all of this around the area to hit delete. So since the surfboard is selected, I'm going to go up to my menu bar and choose the word select, get the drop down menu, and I'm going to choose inverse. And watch what happens with the marching ants. It did just that. It selected the inverse from the surfboard. So now all this area around here is selected. So all I got to do is hit delete on my keyboard. And it did just that. All right. Now if I right click inside there, I can deselect all of those marching ants. There we go. So I want to move the surfboard. I got to get out of this tool and click on the move tool. And I'm going to move him so it looks like he's holding it. I may even tilt it a little bit. How did I do that? Well, I'm in the surfboard layer. Go to Edit, Free Transform to get the bounding box. Hover over the corner and maybe just slightly turn it a little bit. Move it over. Let Photoshop know I'm happy with that by hitting the check mark. And there he is. So let's bring back the visibility on the shorts and the shirt. I think he looks pretty good to turn in. All right, so let's turn him in. Actually, the shirt looks a little weird here, but I'll let you figure out where the surfboard needs to be in the layer stack. I'll let you guys figure that out. File, save as, save on your computer always. And then if you're in the Chromebook, you're going to obviously save it to your Google Drive, which will be in this PC. You'll see your Google Drive. Or if you're on your own computer, you know where you're going to save it to. Please, please put your last name in the saved title. So I'm going to call this one McClary.LayeredFigure. I can get rid of 2021. I don't need that. And I do want you to do the save as type as a Photoshop or .psd file. There's a lot to choose from in here. We're just going to use the top one, .psd. When we save as a .psd file, it preserves all of those layers. So I could go back later and make changes if I wanted to. Make sure you know where you're saving it to. I'm going to save here, hit save, and that's it. Oh, if this pops up, maximize compatibility, just click OK. That's perfectly fine. And there he is, McClary.LayeredFigure.psd, and that's what I'm going to turn in. So feel free to use whatever is on these layers to clothe your figure and give it the background. Be creative. If you can figure out, you're welcome to add an item, but it's not required. Make sure you read the directions, make sure you turn it in correctly, and that's it.